Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, absentee ballot and voting rights. Also, Senator Gudger wants to restart gaming, and religious laws have unintended consequences.
Talquemada, do not beg him for forgiveness. Talquemada, do not ask him for mercy. Let's face it, you can't talk him out of anything.
A little witch burning, always a good time. All this and much, much more coming up next on The V. Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and as always, I'm joined by Susan Britt, research guru extraordinaire, and Josh Moon, columnist and investigative reporter at APR. Welcome.
Hey, y'all.
Hey, y'all.
Last session, the greatest failure was that the Senate did not pass a gaming bill by one vote. Mm-hmm. Now, that was not the ideal bill, but it would have at least got something good to the people of Alabama so they could vote on gaming once and for all. Now, Senator Garland Gudger out of Coleman has now said he is going to champion a bill in the Senate, Josh, one that he hopes he can get passed in 2025. The question is, will the Senate act? And then, if they act, will they present the House with a bill that they can live with?
Yeah, those are all fine questions. I would also question what sort of a bill he's going to put forward. Because you're right, it wasn't just the bill wasn't ideal. The bill was a bad bill. The last bill that they had was a bad bill. It was something that it was nowhere close to what the House had. I mean, it would have gone ahead and allowed for some gaming to take place around the state. It would have allowed for an education lottery, which most people support. But it would have been a fraction of the total amount of revenue as compared to the bill that came out of the House. And so I think that to me is a pretty big problem to start with. Now, if he's going to go back to something similar to what the House did, then I think we've got a real shot at this thing here, a real shot at doing something good for the state. Because without that revenue coming in, you're not going to have the ability to do a lot of the things that were a part of that. I don't know how much education spending can come from what they're proposing out of a bill similar to that.
Well, but go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Okay, I'll go ahead. I was just saying, and so without that, it's kind of worthless to a lot of people, I think. I understand it solves some problems, and maybe we'll crack down on the illegal gaming that's taking place, and those are good things. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that, but at the same time, when you're proposing it up against a bill that was, this basically the same amount of gambling. Let's be honest. I mean, does anybody really care if they're playing electronic bingo or historical horse racing versus having a full casino? I mean, does anybody really care if that's the case? Well, in terms of revenue, we should care, because that could mean the expansion of healthcare services to about 400,000 people.
Well, and I think one of the things that gets lost in translation here is there is no such thing as a clean lottery bill. It cannot exist in Alabama. But you need the casino style gaming, or at least the bingo, the historical race betting, and the lottery to even make any money. Now, to make real money, you need sports wagering.
Right.
Which they seem to not want to do.
Well, a lot of them, too, get hung up on the lottery. The returns on the lottery are beginning to diminish and will continue to diminish over time. So if you're looking at that for a model for revenue, you're looking in the wrong direction. So we have to have all of these other things. And even if they don't get sports betting in this first bite, that's okay. They can come back and amend it later to include things like sports wagering.
I mean, Josh, that's one of the things we've talked about over the past few months is that can we pass something that is a reasonable bill, one that, and let's face it, one that the track owners will agree to, one that Porch Creek Indians will agree to, that doesn't give everybody everything they want. I mean, I can envision a scenario like this. Let's say that Senate bill would have passed, right? As is. Well, in that case, the PCI, the Porch Creek Band of Indians, would not have gotten much of anything or anything at all. I could see a scenario, since they didn't get what they wanted, where they could actually lobby against a vote. In other words, when it goes to the people, they can say, don't vote for this. There could be a $5 million campaign so that it tanks. Now, I don't know that you can tank it on $5 million, but is it one of those situations where if we don't give people what they want, or at least close to it, they're going to kill it by other means?
Well, I think that's a good possibility. I think that's a good possibility in terms, not just with PCI, but with anybody.
Right.
What they want. I didn't mean, to say you were singling them out. What I just meant was, there's a lot of interested parties and a lot of working pieces to all the gambling bills. And, what I don't understand, and is this kind of natural inclination that we have in the legislature to not give people what they want. I don't, you know what I mean? I don't, it just, that was a good bill that came out of the House.
Yeah.
It addressed everything. It was essentially the same amount of gambling as the Senate bill, but the people in the Senate were like, well, let's don't do full gambling. Let's just have electronic bingo at the same number of locations as we were going to have full gambling. And so we won't have the resorts and the things that people want to go to. We'll just have, mini casinos around the
right.
It doesn't make any sense. Why not just do this? Put the sports wagering in, because while sports wagering is right now a relatively small piece of this pie in terms of revenue, it's your growth.
That's
piece.
where the
it's
growth
the piece that's going to grow and grow and grow. And I just don't do the thing and get it done. What are we doing?
It already exists. People are already doing sports wagering, albeit it's not legal in the state. They're still doing it. The state's making no money off of it whatsoever. As with all these other games, it's already happening. Just buckle up, Buttercup, and get it done.
Well, I think one of the things, at least this is my opinion, get something reasonable passed. And then you can always come back, because this is going to be the last year, that anything can get done. Come back after the quadrennium, and you can get a lot more done then. So you cannot always get what you want, as the Rolling Stones said. But if you try sometimes, you just might find you get what you need. And we need this revenue.
We do.
If we don't have this revenue in the next few years, we're going to be in a world of hurt.
But words of David Bronner.
Yeah, and if David Bronner says it, I think we all should listen.
Take it to the bank, baby.
We're going to leave it right there. You're watching The V. We'll be right back.
My personal biggest pet peeve is kids who are not properly restrained, whether that be in a booster seat, a car seat, or even a simple seatbelt. Kids, they become projectiles, and it's terrifying.
It absolutely breaks my heart to know that something so innocent could be punished so severely.
Your children rely on you to be that person that says, no, you need to put your seatbelt on.
Your home is your most valuable asset. But what if someone tried to steal it from you? Property fraud is one of the fastest growing areas of fraud in the country today.
As a district attorney, I've seen firsthand the devastating effects of property fraud. That's why I'm proud to support the Montgomery County Probate Court's REACT program.
REACT is designed to protect your property and to give you peace of mind. By signing up, you'll receive an email notification if a document is filed against your property.
This program is a game changer. It has the potential to prevent fraud and protect countless homeowners throughout Montgomery County.
So don't wait. Sign up for REACT today and protect your home.
Protect your home with REACT. Sign up today.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. This last legislative session, the Republican supermajority passed a bill that would make it illegal to help anyone with their absentee ballot. Doesn't matter if you're disabled, blind, or any of those things. There's some minor deals in there. But overall, if you are disabled and you want an absentee ballot, you're on your own. Where there used to be like the League of Women Voters and individuals. I mean, we can't even help our neighbor help them get a ballot. Now, this has been challenged in court, and the Justice Department has also filed on to this case to try to get some semblance of logic into this voting system when you're elderly or disabled and need an absentee ballot.
Yeah, and they're saying that Section 208 overrides, what is it, SB 1? I think it was, yes. In that, what they're doing is taking away people's rights to vote. In that, I can't go and pick up an absentee ballot for my neighbor. They can't sign it. And if they're not able to walk to the mailbox, I can't go get it and put it in the mailbox for them. I can go to jail for that. I mean, that's ridiculous restrictions on simple right to vote. I mean, what if my neighbor's blind? Yeah. It would have to be a family member, I think. Well, what if they don't have any family? Now they're completely alienated from voting. This is just unfair.
And Josh, let's kind of be honest here. The reason that this was a priority bill was not to keep some kind of fraudulent voting from happening or ballot harvesting or any of that nonsense. What it was meant to do was to disenfranchise a block of voters who do not necessarily traditionally vote Republican.
Sure. Well, I think to be clear about the whole thing here, the law that was passed was about absentee ballot applications. Okay.
Right.
I mean, they are prohibiting you from helping somebody file the application for an absentee ballot. Yeah, that's indeed, they've already done the other stuff.
Right.
Now. They've already done everything you're talking about. All of that stuff they've already tried. So this is all part of the lawsuit. But the latest thing was part of just the absentee ballot application.
Right.
And what they're trying to do, and this is because, and the reason I bring that up and the reason I think it's important is because it gives the game away.
Yeah.
All right. The game here is to stop the registering of voting. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to stop people, these groups that go out and get paid and work hard to go out and get folks registered to vote, because once folks are registered to vote, the data shows us that they are more likely to go and cast a ballot. Okay. And then after they get these people signed up, they then call them and remind them and say, hey, remember voting day is coming up. It's election day is coming. You got to get your ballot in by this day. And those things take place. Nothing is illegal about any of that. Nothing is nefarious. Nothing is wrong with it. It is encouraging people to participate in the democratic process. And the fact that these people have gone in and somehow sullied that and made it seem as though something untoward is happening is disgusting.
Well, I mean, I thought we grew up in an era, Susan, where we wanted to encourage more people to vote than discourage people to vote.
Well, we did up until the tables kind of got turned on whose team was in charge. And then based on the fact that team wants to stay in charge, they want to make sure to be able to manage the votes, not tamper with them, just manage them.
Well, I still always hold that the politics of addition is much better than the politics of subtraction.
Let everybody vote and let the cards fall where they're made. Yeah. That's the way it's supposed to be.
Well, it's interesting, but I mean, there is nothing that some of these folks will not do to ensure that they stay in power or to grab power, Josh. We're seeing this in Montgomery. The crime has not been out of control, as some might think. It's, as you pointed out recently, it's not the highest crime city in Alabama. But Reed Ingram and Will Barfoot, two lawmakers, they don't live in Montgomery, but they're so outraged about what's going on in Montgomery because there have been some shootings, there are deaths,
right.
there is crime. But they are wanting to pass a law that says, well, if there's this ambiguous amount of crime, then the governor or the attorney general can come in and appoint a police chief to take over the department and run it, I guess, the way they want it run, even though they don't live there.
Yeah. Well, the problem is people just aren't trying hard enough, Bill. That's the problem. There's just not enough trying going on in these places for some of them. And listen, Will Barfoot and Reed Ingram, they're just two guys who wanted to be proactive. They're trying to be proactive out there. They schools or child hunger or any of those things, but proactive in replacing a police chief that would do absolutely nothing. I mean, if anybody thinks that the problem in Montgomery is that the police chief has not done enough to encourage the department to stop crime, it's idiotic. And it's insulting to the police officers there. It really is. It's insulting to the police. It's insulting to the people that run the city. It's insulting to the people who live in the city who are trying desperately to do something to crack down on the crime that is the result of over 70 years of this BS stuff that's come out of the legislature that has disenfranchised, discriminated, and marginalized whole neighborhoods of people in Montgomery. That's what's happened here.
I mean,
all right?
Susan, we don't live in Montgomery full time, but we live in Montgomery. We're aware of the problems, but it's not like Mayor Reed is not trying to do something about it. It's just their perception is a lot of what is happening.
Well, they're trying to look at a top-down situation instead of a bottom-up, and believe me, this is political. But you got to look at the opportunities for education there. You've got to look at what's going on in the community that's causing the crime rates. Now, I believe Mayor Reed at one point wanted to raise, I think it was the ad valorem tax or one of these taxes, to put 250
Occupational,
that's what it was, to put 250 new police officers on the ground.
Yeah.
And Montgomery went, nope.
Well, yeah. I mean, the legislature would not let him do it.
Yeah.
No.
And
the legislature wouldn't let him do it.
That was the legislature.
blocked him from doing it.
Yeah. And so to come back and say, oh, well, and listen, people have moved out of Montgomery to Pike Road, where these guys live, and to other spots. Prattville and all that. But they still drive into Montgomery to work. And, that's what this is about, is you're using the Montgomery services, but you're not paying Montgomery taxes.
Right.
And that right there, to me, is outrageous. If you live in any big city, you're going to pay a tax if you drive in and work there. But we're running out of time. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
My personal biggest pet peeve is kids who are not properly restrained, whether that be in a booster seat, a car seat, or even a simple seatbelt. Kids, they become projectiles, and it's terrifying.
It absolutely breaks my heart to know that something so innocent could be punished so severely.
Your children rely on you to be that person that says, no, you need to put your seatbelt on.
125 to 620. As a paramedic, you wouldn't believe the things that we've seen.
I've seen all types of horrible things.
I mean, we're there basically picking up the pieces from your worst day.
Everyone is just driving and not paying attention.
We all have the same goal. All of us want to go home alive and safe and harm nobody else in the process.
Slow down. Be careful. Care about the other people on the road. Don't be the reason that someone else doesn't go home tonight.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. In a nation that is divided along lots of lines, division is the norm, not the exception. A new survey from Gallup found that 51% of Americans believe that changing one's gender is morally unacceptable. They think that is a moral wrong, whereas 44% think that it's morally fine. So we're divided here. Another statistic that came out of that is, though, 6 in 10 United States citizens polled believe that the government has no right in telling people if they can have transition medication. They do not agree with that. They do not think that the government should be able to tell children, parents, individuals that they cannot get transgender surgery or medication if they choose to. So they may not like it, but they believe you have a right to do it.
Exactly. And let's break this down into, last time I did math, 6 out of 10 was 60%. All right. So if you got 51% think it's immoral to do that, but 60% don't want it involved with when it's talking about transgender children, which is a stronger number.
Yeah.
The 60% is always going to be the stronger number. The majority of people don't want the government messing in their health care.
Yeah.
They can't seem to hear that for some reason. We're not screaming it loud enough. Don't mess with women. Don't mess with, with gender affirming care. Stay out of our medical care.
Well, and Josh, there used to be a time where Republican Party was the party of stay out of my house, stay out of my bank account, and stay out of my bedroom most explicitly. But certainly do not tell me how to raise my children. But that has all changed.
Yeah.
That's all gone.
Well, I mean, that at least that's what they used to say. And they said it a lot. But no, you're right. That's probably the most American poll that I think I've ever heard. Listen, I don't necessarily agree with it, but I am not wanting the government to get involved. Is probably about the most American statement that you can make. And I think that's I think a lot of what happens when you poll people about transgender issues is they're so unfamiliar with the issue, with what actually takes place in transitioning and all those things and they don't understand the medical process and all of the time that goes into such a thing. To be honest, I mean, I've never experienced myself. I know a couple of transgender folks, but I don't know intimately what they've gone through, in terms of transitioning and things. So, I think it's a mystery to a lot of people. And so I think that's the reason why you see 51% that they think it may be immoral to do such a thing. But at the same time, I think that it's fair for so many people, and I think more people would believe that the government should stay out of it if they understood the extensive nature of the process that these folks go through.
Well, and there's a special on Netflix called El Dorado, and it's about 1920 to almost the end of 1930 in Germany, and at that time Berlin was one of the capitals of sort of progressive everything, and homosexuality, transgender, and so on and so forth.
Kind of like a mecca.
Was not seen as taboo. It was a mecca there, and the leading scientist of the day who studied transgender work was really the first ones who ever did. But within a few short years, the Nazis, who disapproved of all those things, even though there were plenty of gay Nazis, but they came in and their solution was to burn all the works of this man who had done 20,000 different cases on transgender individuals. They burned his books, they burned his research, the largest research on that issue that had ever been completed. And what did they do next? They arrested people for being different. Now, I think there are people today that would arrest people for being different.
They absolutely would.
But that is one of the things they did. They thought it was immoral, and they thought the government had a right to come in and arrest you and imprison you for what they consider your immoral choice.
And if we don't watch it, that's about to start happening here in the United States.
Yeah,
Mark my word.
I mean, that's kind of what I'm afraid of, Josh. Is that we're going to go too far. You know, when I hear people say we're a center-right country, I don't believe that. I think we're more of a country that, you know, has seen the center a lot because we pass it going from extreme to extreme. And right now, in certain parts of the country, we've gone so far to the right extreme that we can't, those of you who are in the center, like me, get accused of being liberal, and we can't even see you, you're so far right. But I don't know what we do about this. I mean, we got the Alabama Supreme Court's ruling on IVF, which is totally, Josh, as you pointed out, totally consistent with the laws of Alabama. If they rule differently, you know, that's just like, I was talking to a couple of attorneys just yesterday who said, look, this law that the legislature passed to fix the law that the ruling of the court is unconstitutional. You can't stand. It is unconstitutional by the Alabama Constitution. And you pointed that out.
Yeah, no, it is. It's, I mean, this is the ruling. Now, it's all flawed and it's all screwed up.
Of course.
You know, because of the, you know, they injected so much religion into it. And, you know, I think to me, that's the most troubling thing that I've seen is the injection of religion into so many different avenues and the acceptance of this now as though it's just a norm. And you hear people talk about how this is a Christian nation. It's not. No. It's a nation where you've been free to practice your Christian faith if you choose to, and any other faith that you'd like. But what we have done in skewering this thing to the right is really focused on the religious aspects of this. And I think that should trouble a lot more people than it has.
Well, there are a lot of different Christian faiths. There's not just one. And so when you start talking about theology, you got to get to the point where you're agreeing on it. And I guarantee you can't get a Presbyterian church on this side of town and a Baptist church on that side of town to agree on Sunday dinner, Susan.
No, they couldn't.
You know, so how are they going to do that? But anyway, we're going to have to leave it right there. You've been watching the voice of Alabama politics. You watch us because we watch them.